Shri Ram. Oxymorons, part 2, we are discussing using oxymorons will enhance the quality of your speech. It's a rhetorical device. Rhetoric, R-H-E-T-O-R-I-C. Rhetoric means the art of public speaking. Powerful and persuasive use of language. Persuasive means convincing. Rhetoric used to be taught in Gurukulas because all the knowledge you know will be futile if you cannot communicate it effectively with the use of logos, pathos, and ethos. Logos is the reasoning. These are terms Aristotle used, the triangle of rhetoric. So, rhetorical devices are various ways in which you can communicate effectively. So, our Prime Minister Modi is a master of rhetoric because he is a master orator, oratory, public speaking. Now, logos means reasoning, logical reasoning. Ethos is your credibility. Ethos means your credibility. That means if you are a person who is well read, educated, and who has some name and fame, and who can quote from the Gita and Vedas, then people will realize that yes, this guy knows something, he is not a gas bag. So that is ethos. Now the word ethos actually means a defining characteristic. Ethos means culture. The Indian ethos, the Hindu ethos, culture. Ethos means defining characteristic or culture. Make a note. So now we are talking about ethos. Ethos in the context of public speaking or under the rubric of rhetoric. Rubric means a heading. Rubric means assessment criteria. Rubric means rules to follow. Rubric is a red colored heading in olden days, bound books. Binding, they used to do, and the title used to be in red color. So that is called rubric. So rubric means title. Under the rubric of Indian history, under the rubric of Indian ethics, so Hindu ethics. So rubric. So we were talking about logos, ethos, and pathos. Pathos is literally the word pathos means sadness, sorrow, melancholy. But in the context, under the rubric of rhetoric, the word pathos means the emotions that you can generate in the listeners, in the audience. The emotion you can generate in the audience, that is pathos. So this is a combination. For effective public speaking, you must master these three things: logos, ethos, and pathos. That means they must be reasoning, because never disrespect the audience. Always think that the audience is full of Krishnas. I always think like that. Just imagine, I always imagine that I am talking to a huge audience of Krishnas, huge audience of Ramas, and Rama within me is speaking to them. So when you think like this, that you are actually addressing a huge audience of Sri Ramachandras or Sri Krishnas, then you will never bullshit and bluff and mislead them, because that is not the right thing to do. Krishna is going to not spare you. So that is the right attitude when you are public speaking. లేకపోతే ఏమవుతుంది, చెప్పేవాడికి వినేవాడు లోకువ. This is nonsensical. Never do that. Always respect the audience. So logos, ethos, pathos. I think you understood the simple theory of rhetoric. So you need to understand these, and then only you can be a good speaker, a persuasive speaker. So always make sure that you create your own oxymorons. Okay. So oxymorons, people who love language and who have an aesthetic interest, intellectually oriented people would love this word play. They may call it word play, but then it has a deeper meaning. So ideas play actually. And all those very learned people who savor this kind of language and also enjoy, relish the unusual perspectives that get generated when you create oxymorons, and they will understand this whole new Ras Leela called idea play. Our Puranas are full of idea play. Nothing is to be taken literally. Maybe some part is literally you can take it, but most of it is implied, metaphorical, spiritual. Idiots who don't understand this try to criticize us. So tell them to go to hell, say namaste, and tell them to get lost. So intellectually oriented people, language lovers, they will appreciate this idea play. Okay. So oxymorons are wonderful. That's what I was trying to tell you. And you should also mull over them, think through them, mull over them deeply, not just skim over them. Okay, so now let's go forward and see what more I have collected here. Good taste and humor are a contradiction in terms like a chaste whore. They can't be a chaste whore. Good taste and humor. Okay. Next, let's see what more. I have a huge collection. I'm only picking up those which are useful, those which are piquant, thought provoking. Oxymoronic observations you can indulge in. Oxymoronic observations, where the meaning is not immediately obvious. So sometimes, the best lines can fly right over people's heads, but doesn't matter. Slowly they will admire it, they will understand, they will mull over it. So when you are using oxymorons, you can also take the liberty of punning, P-U-N. Say one thing, mean another thing. Somebody said, somebody whose name is, I think, Milton Burley. You'll find out who is. He says Jews don't drink because it interferes with their suffering. This is one more slur against them. Okay, yeah. You are first of all causing them so much suffering, Holocaust, and then you are commenting. This is victim shaming. This is what we Hindus are also receiving. We are at the receiving end of this kind of nonsense. Brahmins also don't drink because it's a Mahapathakam. Of course, some Brahmins are drinking, they have degenerated because thanks to Bollywood, all kinds of degeneration, labifaction, very, very civilized labifaction. That's a new oxymoron because it is considered civilized to drink, social drinking. And finally, alcoholism, as you know, is a primary, progressive and terminal disease. Primary, progressive, terminal disease, and they call it civilized behavior. I think it's civilized labifaction. Somebody said, Scotty Reston, James Scotty Reston, a journalist. He said, I'm a Scotch Calvinist. That is a sect. In Christianity, there are 40,000 denominations. One Jesus Christ, whose existence itself is a figment, not proved. No historian has ever written. The Bible is not sure when he was born. They say 25th December. That's a lie because some Pope Julius in the year 365 AD decided that December 25th will be the Jesus Christ birthday. That's ridiculous. Nobody can decide somebody else's birthday. So we have absolutely no idea. The Bible has no date. Unlike Rama and Krishna, we have dates which you can use a simple planetarium software, feed the information, you will get the date of birth of Rama and Krishna, and that is astronomically supported, by the way, because all the dates given in our Ramayana and in our epics, scriptures, itihasas, are astronomically very, very sound. Unlike, so the Bible says at one place Jesus was born in Bethlehem, and in another place they say he was born in Nazareth. So they're not sure where he was born. And right now, actually, somewhere in Jerusalem there is a place. I think somewhere in Bethlehem or Nazareth, in one of these places, Bethlehem, there is a hole, the holy hole on the ground, in the ground. They have put some gold covering. They say this is where he was. This is the exact spot he was born. So this is their problem. And you see, every time you give your birthday in the English, as per the English calendar, you are supporting a lie. Did you ever think of this? This is the most interesting oxymoron. Now, how is it an oxymoron? I'll explain that later, or you will understand it as I keep discussing. Suppose you ask me what is my birthday and I tell you 5/1/1947, which means I was born on the 5th of January 1947 years after the birth of Jesus Christ, because the dogma is that the birth of Jesus Christ is the starting point of history after the birth and history prior to the birth. So they have divided human history into two parts, as if they know how long humans have been existing on this planet. This planet is at least 5 billion years old, as science says. So the past is so huge and the future is only 2000 years. By the way, the Lord Jesus lived only for 33 years. And anyway, they initially said it is Anno Domini, in the year of the Lord. They realized that is not making sense, so they removed it and they made it CE, Christian era, and BCE, before Christian era. Now this simple argument is so seriously flawed. if they wanted to, if this is true, then Jesus Christ's birthday should be 0 BC, because that's the starting point, isn't it? Think. And but ask them, when was Jesus Christ born? Look up Google, it says 4 to 6 BC. So Jesus Christ was born 4 years before Christ was born. Christ was born 4 years before Christ was born. What kind of nonsense is this? How can I be born 4 years before I was born? Ask any Christian. So they're not sure. So this is a whole lie cooked up. No historian ever wrote, but a whole edifice has been constructed, and they have been killing people. Inquisitions. The word Inquisition is the darkest chapter in Christian history. Inquisition means a medieval tribunal set up to stamp out heresy. Medieval, 1200 to 1700. Tribunal, special court. Heresy, blasphemy, disrespect toward religion, stamping out, crush, quell. So Portuguese Inquisition, Spanish Inquisition, throughout the world they have killed, tortured people in the name of Christianity. Those who did not accept Christianity, they had to be tortured, converted, or killed. Bruno was burnt alive, whose statue is still there in Vatican. Bruno, Giordano Bruno, the great thinker. So he was burnt alive because he rejected the Bible. His statue is there. So now this is what Christianity did, and Islam followed up on Christianity. Together these two religions have murdered millions and billions of people throughout the history of the world. So I'll pause here. It is not a rant. You can imagine how much anger is suppressed inside me. We were told lies in the history books. And these are the hard facts. So this man says, James Cuddy, I am a Scotch Calvinist and nothing makes us happier than misery. Actually, Jesus Christ in the Bible says, if you look at a woman in lust, pluck out your eye, cut off your hand. It is better to go without a hand to heaven. These are some interesting statements he made. So simply by looking at a woman in lust, you would have committed adultery according to Jesus Christ, and the punishment for adultery is actually stoning to death as per the Bible. Okay. Zina, as per Quran also, it is death, stoning to death. But they are not following it. They are comfortably following IPC here in India. IPC, Indian Penal Code, is very, very reformative, liberal, rehabilitative. Their system, if they literally follow the Bible and the Quran, every Christian thief and every Muslim thief, his hand should be cut, and for all other offences they should be stoned to death and things like that. But they want the Indian Penal Code only as far as the civil matters are concerned. But when it comes to crime, they want IPC for crime too. For civil, they want personal loss. This is the hypocrisy that has been going on from 1947. I do not know what kind of leaders we have. None had the courage to openly question this. And still now we don't have a uniform civil code. If they want a full Sharia, they should get full Sharia. I respect the right of every Muslim to have his hand cut off if he commits a theft, and to be stoned to death if he is guilty of adultery. So let them have the full Sharia. When will we have this? So we have an oxymoronic secularism, pseudo-secular secularism. How's that for you? Hypocritical secularism, pseudo-secular secularism, non-secular secularism. Masochism is what Jesus Christ was unfortunately suggesting. Masochism, hurt yourself. So come on, let's continue. Life is too important to be taken seriously. I think John Lennon said that. Life is too, or Oscar Wilde. John Lennon said, life is what happens to you while you are busy making other plans. Life is what happens to you while you are busy making other plans. Oscar Wilde, I think, said this. Life is too important to be taken seriously. Don't take life too seriously. You will never get out of it. So develop a strong oxymoronic bent. Oxymoronic bent. An intellectual pleasure. This is intellectual pleasure. Serious philosophy can make you laugh. Serious philosophy is humorous. Okay, that is why Krishna Leela, Rama Leela, we get a million opportunities to laugh. We laugh because Not because something is wrong there, but because we know that all the attempts we make to know something, we end up getting more and more complexed and confused, flabbergasted. Hmm? Because that is how reality seems to be. God perhaps does not want us to know all his secrets. That's why Krishna says, eh, Krishna says, अथवा बहुनैतेन किं ज्ञातेन तवार्जुन विष्टभ्याहमिदं कृत्स्नम् एकांशेन स्थितो जगत् 10:42. Please make a note. 10th chapter 42nd shloka, last one. He says, what are you going to do knowing all this? What is the purpose of knowing all? Krishna says he is running this whole entire multiverse with a fraction of his energy. And Parashara Rishi suggested, if you take a cross section of a human hair, 1/10,000th part of 1/10,000th part, that is the amount of energy with which Krishna is running the whole multiverse. Now, that's a nice speculation. So Krishna is also saying that what will you do knowing all this? Just do your work. In fact, if you look at the Bhagavad Gita, 700 shlokas, 745 in the actual Mahabharata, some books have 701. And there are lots of argument. Would Krishna have said so much? Arey Baba. Anyway, what did Krishna tell Arjuna? Do your work, damn it. I mean, just imagine, that's all. In one sentence, Bhagavad Gita is telling you, do your work. Damn it. What the hell? You've been paid. You've been, nurtured, bred. You've been suckled. You have been feeding of the masses. Because the king is feeding off the masses. The king is not doing anything. People are paying taxes and this fellow is having a fat life. And Arjuna was exactly doing that. So what was Krishna telling Arjuna? Just do your work, damn it. Don't give me all this nonsense. That's it. That's the Bhagavad Gita. Nothing more than that. But if you tell people this much, I don't know how many people will get it. So Krishna had to tell so many things about everything, about life and punyam and papam, and go on and on and on and on. Only then Arjuna could understand. Though Arjuna was a very learned man. Just imagine. Arjuna was such a great scholar. He was a constant companion. Nara Narayana were eternal friends, just like all of us. But we have parted ways, and that's why we are suffering. So when Arjuna, such a great genius and scholar, could not understand easily, so many 574 shlokas Krishna uttered. Only then this fellow understood. So what about us? We will not understand. We will go to the grave, Dargah, Munmiya, Chandmiya, and indulge in stupid rituals thinking that God is going to be happy. But it gives us some happiness. That is the problem. Pseudo, what you call certainty. What next? When everything fails, read the instructions. People should be allowed to play the veena only after they have mastered it. No. How can you? Okay, so that's an oxymoron. Modesty is my best quality. Oxymoron again. So you're boasting about it. Niels Bohr. If you aren't confused by quantum mechanics, you haven't really understood it. If you are not confused by quantum mechanics, if you are not confused by quantum physics or quantum mechanics means the same. If you are not confused, that means you have not understood it. So, confused understanding. If you are not confused, you have not if you are not confused, you haven't understood it. Wow. Prediction is very difficult, especially about the future. Niels Bohr. In fact, there was an interesting conversation between Niels Bohr and Albert Einstein, and this conversation was later commented upon as if there was a third person in the conversation by Stephen Hawking. Once Einstein said, God doesn't play dice. God doesn't play dice. God doesn't play dice with the universe. Basically, God doesn't play dice means that there's nothing random here, everything is structured. Niels Bohr, I believe, he was also there in the same room sitting beside Einstein, and Bohr remarked, who are you to tell God what to do? Who are you to tell God what to do? It's like this, in religion, some Christianity and Islam say God is formless, but they have their own icons and statues and idols and Kaaba and mosque and roods and, the crosses, and rood is a big cross. So all these idols they have, their holy books are idols. They worship that. Idol simply means any object that is held in respect. After all, a holy book is made of paper. Paper comes from tree. I don't see anything holy there, but they worship it. So they have their own idols, and this is the ultimate hypocrisy. And a formless God, they turn to the west and pray. How do you know that the formless God is in the west? Only a formful God can have a particular direction. And the formless God has a house, and he has a stone, he has a throne, he has a stool, footstool, and all these are clear cases of irrationalities. So, what was I trying to say? So the conversation, Niels Bohr, it is like this. If somebody, my question is, okay, God is Nirguna and Saguna also. That's what Hinduism, Vedas says. God is Nirguna, Saguna. He can take a form. You cannot tell God, Mr. God, you have to stay Nirguna. You cannot take a form. That is, you are putting a limitation on God. So if God is omnipotent, which means he can do anything and everything, which means if he wants to be formless, he can be, and if he wants to take up a form, can anybody stop him? So it's a simple counter argument, counter blast to all these Abrahamic cults. So Niels Bohr told Albert Einstein, who are you to tell God what to do? And then, so which means God can make things random. God can randomize things. But perhaps they look like they are random because we don't understand. Though there is randomized, though there is a randomness, it could be based on an order, higher order, which we don't understand. That's why we have the chaos theory in physics, which is called the butterfly effect. Butterfly effects means small things unconnected finally connect and end up into something else. So that is the chaos theory. Sensitive dependence on initial conditions. Butterfly effect is another name for the chaos theory, which is defined as the flapping of the wings of a butterfly can cause a tornado somewhere else or stop it from happening. So there's no chaos here. What looks like chaos is not chaos. Ordered chaos. Oh, that's a new oxymoron I just created for you. Ordered chaos. So Niels Bohr told Albert Einstein, who are you to tell God what to do? And several years after they passed away, Stephen Hawking said, as a counterblast to this conversation, God not only plays dice with the universe, or God not only plays dice, he throws them where you cannot find them. I think that's awesome. So that's why we Hindus know, the Veda says, Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasasaha. That means a stage will come when the human mind, the greatest philosopher, will raise his hands and say, sorry, beyond this I cannot go, I'm not able to understand. Because the deeper you go into something, the deeper the mystery becomes. The rabbit hole, the red pill. In which movie was that? You know that movie, right? Matrix. So to appreciate nonsense, it requires a lot of intelligence. Or, well, there are so many holy books which are so full of filth, in my own words, lechery, butchery, treachery, and pure gibberish. But seems to be that many intelligent people are subscribing to this. They must have some other reasons, ulterior motives, because they don't want to be kicked out of the community. Because blasphemy and apostasy, the punishment is death. So I think it's not because they accept the nonsense, but because they're scared of being thrown out. Instant gratification takes too long. So yeah, right now we are living in an instant gratification society. That's why we want fast gratification, and that's why we get very angry very fast. Because when we desire something, we expect that it should come up and satisfy. But then when that doesn't happen, we get terribly angry. That's one of the reasons why people should display road rage. Optimism is so depressing. Depressing optimism. Your optimism is so depressing. That means you are a big fool actually. You cannot make anything idiot proof because idiots are so ingenious. Nothing can be idiot proof because idiots are so ingenious. Ingenious is a positive word, which means very intelligent, almost like a genius. The other word which comes close is ingenuous. Ingenuous. Ingenuous means very naive, gullible, easily believing anything, unsophisticated, childlike simplicity. This one is lovely. We are confronted by insurmountable opportunities. Okay. Insurmountable difficulties is the conventional phrase. Insurmountable opportunities. Please make a note. Use this phrase. Insurmountable opportunities. Insurmountable, cannot be overcome. It is difficult to keep quiet if you have nothing to say. It is difficult to keep quiet if you have nothing to say. And I have a terrible memory. I never forget anything. If you think knowledge is expensive, you have to pay a lot of money. Of course, in the colleges, they're not giving you any knowledge anyway. That's a different thing. If you think knowledge is expensive, try ignorance. It is even more expensive. I am often wrong but never in doubt. Often wrong but never in doubt. I'm not sincere even when I say I'm not. So it can be called sincere insincerity or insincere sincerity. People say that they're sincere but actually they aren't. There's always a right and wrong way, and the wrong way always seems more reasonable. So there are lots of vacancies, but they're all filled. Human nature is largely something that has to be overcome. Human nature is largely something that has to be overcome. I have come to the conclusion that you cannot come to any conclusion. I have come to the conclusion that you cannot come to any conclusion at all. That's why we call it Ram Leela, Krishna Leela. I think we all need to know what we do not need to know. You need to know what you don't need to know. You know too much, and all that is useless actually. I love mankind. It's people I just can't stand. I love mankind. It's people I just can't stand.